Hey y'all, Mush here. Everyone takes inspiration from something. Almost every piece of art that has ever been created has been inspired by something in some form. Something that drove them to create that art for the world to see. It's always been like this with mankind. Even the creators on YouTube you see today were inspired by something to do the thing they do. And of course, we can't forget that the trailblazers of online content creation had their own influences and inspirations. A lot of content creators of today have a lot to owe to James Rolfe. He really was a pioneer, and most of the content you see today has taken influence from him in some form. Or maybe they took influence from someone who took influence from James, and it goes from there throughout generations, and eventually it ends up being something totally different from what it once was, and yet familiar all the same. And after a long time, you get a concoction of a creator. A concoction like Scott the Woz. I have seen Scott described a number of times as this generation's AVGN, and honestly, I can't really disagree. I see a ton of younger people that watch and enjoy his stuff and look up to him, and Scott wears his inspiration from James on his sleeve.
Ever since then, I was just always, consistently watching your stuff. Great, feeling of, wow, this guy really understands, what it means to be kind of a filmmaker on a budget, or somebody that's just you don't have an immediate connection to how to make films in Hollywood or something, but then you ended up doing that, and it was just this really kind of really cool inspirational story, just watching your stuff throughout the years.
He's probably the most successful gaming YouTuber of this style, and really throws back to the old school reviewer days, filled with his own brand of humor.
The back is a soap dish.
And lots of skits. And a lot of people have taken note of his style of content, because as the name of this video implies, this would result in some people taking this style and running with it. The more things change online, the more they stay the same. It does not matter what decade we live in online, when someone gets famous, somebody's gonna start doing the exact same thing no matter the case. And here we are again. But first, some explanations. It's kinda really difficult to pin down what makes someone a clone of Scott. He's already a melting pot of a bunch of different creators from back in the day already. When you really look at what Scott does in his videos, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, you come to the realization, he's not really bringing anything new or groundbreaking to the table. The style of reviewing, the skits, I've seen all this before in some fashion. Especially growing up with that guy with the glasses content.
I blocked it with my shield.
Scott is just really good at his job of being an entertainer. But also, this makes it harder for me to really pinpoint what qualifies as a clone. With the AVGN clones, if the reviewer was always angry and shouting swears and insults towards the game, it was usually a sign they were taking cues from him. The Nostalgia Critic clones were so obvious, some of them were just flat out fucking skinwalking as him, wearing the same costume and everything. You can't get any more blatant than that. But with Scott, I didn't really know what to do here. I've decided to qualify the clones based on the tone and the mannerisms of the videos. You know how James is playing a character who is always pissed off and seems to be stuck in the past, or how Doug is playing an over-exaggerated mentally ill film critic, or how Spoonie is a mentally ill film critic. Have you seen his towel rack? Well, I noticed in Scott's videos, his personality is an overly joyous nerd. In the start of most of his videos, he's always smiling and he has usually a chipper tone.
Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all.
And that persona can break depending on the video subject. I know that seems a little broad, but really, it's a vibe. You'll know it when you see it. And one last thing is, most of the people who have taken inspiration from Scott are all still kinda making stuff to this day. Making this video and calling a random content creator a clone, they're probably gonna see this video in one way or another. And I don't want to come across as a dick just picking on smaller creators. So I just want to go ahead and establish, don't take anything in this video to heart. I'm just trying to have some fun and make money. You're not gonna really get any big stories or drama with most of these guys. Nothing I can show in this video is ever gonna top what some of those AVGN clones did, not by a long shot. Let's actually get to the clones! I regret nothing.
Hey all, KamSandwich here.
The rules of online content creators is, whenever someone takes off in popularity, whoever is taking cues from their shtick, they're always going to tackle a different medium, and there's always going to be a board game equivalent. When Doug Walker got his clones, you had Lotso with the Gamer's Atlas, and with James Rolfe, you had Board James. Wait, does that count? Can you clone yourself?
This ad sucks shit. It's so
Well, confirmed by the man himself, you can indeed clone yourself. And of course, Scott is no exception to this rule, as he has a clone who reviews board games, and his name is KamSandwich. When I asked my viewers for suggestions of Scott the Woz clones, this was a name I saw brought up constantly, more than anybody else, so he must be pretty well known as a clone then. So I checked his channel out, and while I was told about how much of a clone he was, what I wasn't told about was going far back and seeing the evolution of this guy's channel. He didn't start off as a Scott the Woz clone at all. In fact, his channel was completely different. His channel started off as, well, he did pretty much anything he wanted. There were a lot of sports recaps, or movies or Christmas tunes. It was really just throwing stuff at the wall. God, I know that feeling all too well. His persona eventually evolved into MS Paint-esque drawings, there being a bunch per video, talking about whatever he felt like.
As of now, Oreo Blizzard is a 9-time national champion, being as dominant on the field as other sports legends like the sausage inhaler Joey Chestnut and Tom kisses his son on the lips Brady.
Eventually, he made this video called The Longest Board Game You'll Never Play that did pretty good numbers, describing an absurdly long board game that could take months to complete. And this is where his channel finally landed on what his main topic would be. Well, actually, he wasn't done experimenting just yet. Eventually, he would just drop the MS Paint drawings to start showing up on camera, and this is when he made his final evolution into the Scott the Woz clone he's known to be. And I gotta say, the people who suggested him were right. This guy, without a shadow of a doubt, has taken cues from Scott. In the first 10 seconds of watching one of his videos, I could tell.
Hey y'all, Scott here.
How's it going, dudes?
He has the exact same tone and inflection Scott does.
Whoa! It's almost that time again. Summer's almost here, and you know what that means.
When you and your pals are looking to have a grand old board game night, you'll want to make sure that the little bits and bobs in the game are working together to give you a wonderful experience.
Not to mention the cutaway skits.
Actually, that's Kim Kardashian's dad right there. I can't believe you didn't know that. Oh, silly me. I'll go burn a hole in my foot real quick as recompense. You better.
It's Scott the Woz down to a T.
Name, Cam, that should do. Address, I'll put that in later. I'm not scheduled for a docs until next year. Sex? With women, please.
But I'm gonna be honest here. I was actually shocked by how much I enjoyed this guy's videos. I was going in expecting, well, Diet Coke Scott the Woz, and well, yes, he is that, but he's still able to hold your attention with his own spicy ass to the videos. And I had to give him credit for keeping the skits down to a minimum. I'm not a fan of skits that go on for several minutes at a time, and they only last for a couple of seconds here. Like, yeah, he's a clone, but his videos are still extremely informative on a niche subject that not many people talk about. And yeah, Cam knows. He absolutely knows what he is. He doesn't even try to hide it.
Scott the Woz Monopoly. Hey y'all, Cam here.
He can join the trifecta of board game reviewers, like Board James, and Lotsa. Actually, now that I think about it, it's kind of fun to compare the two. Lotsa's videos are stuck in a different time. They're all trying to be like those Channel Awesome skits where he plays everyone involved and talks to himself, and then later on tries to have epic lore. Cam's skits are just meant to be a joke and then it moves on. Hell, even Scott's skits, including the ones that drag on for too long, are only trying to be funny and aren't trying to world build the world of Scott the Woz. It's so funny seeing the evolution of internet review show skits from having elaborate plots to just trying to be funny. It took a while for content creators to realize, nobody really gives a shit about the stories of internet reviewers. They're just here for the review. Most of Lotsa's videos are focused on the skits, and not really much attention is put on the board games. And here with Cam, it's the opposite. You get a lot of information thrown at you, and honestly, yeah, I gotta recommend this guy's channel. Don't go in expecting some crazy stuff to happen like in Board James, but they're still good videos. Just because you're a clone doesn't automatically mean you're bad. Now, you know what would make a good video? If Cam one day talked about Catalica. Go ahead and Google that. Trust me, you'll love it.
Hey all, EricDoesEverything here.
But of course, not every clone tried to cover a different type of media. Some just reviewed video games just like Scott did, but some aren't going to review the exact same game Scott did. Sometimes they like to add their own personal interest into the reviewing process. Now imagine Scott the Woz if he was heavily obsessed with anime. That concept exists on YouTube in the form of Eric Does Everything. One of Eric's videos randomly popped up in my recommended one day about Bakugan games. Hey, I remember those things. All the kids in middle school were playing with them, so I was curious to see a retrospective of them. Devil May Cry 6 is looking good. Now I enjoy the concept of looking at video games based on various anime and manga, especially in retrospective form. I'll slurp up a retrospective in a heartbeat. And this channel sort of delivers on that, but with some problems. The most glaring being, well, how do I put this? I want to say about 30% of the time when watching the videos, I had no fucking clue what this guy was saying.
Hi, I'm Eric and I do everything, and there are a total of 13 Inuyasha video games, with some being RPGs, some being fighting games, and let's not forget about the gambling machines.
Now, me criticizing someone else's diction skills is really tossing stones in a glass house. They call me MagicMush mouth for a reason. And I feel like I'm picking on a guy's speech impediment, but like, multiple times in multiple videos, I had to rewind and listen again to try and decipher what this guy's trying to say. And sometimes I still couldn't understand him.
And I want you to enjoy the thrill of having beach fresh with each other.
Let me show you a couple of out-of-context clips and see if you can decipher them yourself.
I'm gonna try to steal back the longboards Timmy stole from me. I want to strangle that annoying mascot wannabe. Ooh, these MagicMush are cool, but I like the part where Thurston's sweeping the floor. Let's make him play again. You're like back from front, you have a risk of stabbing your ball. Wait, why am I answering this in the first place? Who me type of engine is so powerful in this game? Or 3. Accidentally find spellbooks that belong to Madonna's. Wanna know else that presses my buttons? Not the little show referencing the characters. That's actually really adorable and clever.
It's hard to understand him speaking English, when he's also showing off games that were only released in Japan, so then he must pronounce the games that never left Japan in English, and it makes things even more awkward to listen to.
The first game on our list is Horuko no Ken Balance Gunka Adventure on the NEC PC 8801.
Another thing that gets me as well, remember how I said the special effects are anime inspired? Well, they're also extremely abundant. Like, if he did all these himself, I'm impressed, but is this what a 7-year-old feels when watching brain rot? It's a ton of sensory overload. In some episodes, he's also holding a pink Wii remote for some reason, even when he's not reviewing a Wii game. And for some reason, that triggers my autism. Maybe it's just me, but I definitely get Scott the Woz vibes from this guy. But apparently, this guy sees himself as an AVGN clone.
Which only gave me half an identity crisis. Then again, I'm already used to that.
This content is so far removed from AVGN. What kind of AVGN episodes were they watching? Also, he has a mascot called Timmy the Taco, and just to let you know, food mascots are a bad idea generally, because usually they don't last very long. I don't know, man. I like the whole concept of the channel reviewing exclusively anime video games, even the more obscure ones. I ain't clicking that shit, but this style of humor ain't for me. There's obviously a lot of effort and passion put into these, and more power to the guy for that. And there's actually no point in me coming back to it anyway, as earlier this year the creator came out and said he's putting a stop to these videos and moving on to bigger and better things. I wish him the best of luck in the future. I hope he gets a job as an editor somewhere, because even though it's too much, he's really good at editing, for the most part.
Hey all, MikeSpike here.
Next up we got a guy named MikeSpike. Now when I first heard the name, I got reminded of an old YouTuber I used to watch called MikeySpike200. He was some kid from Europe who took clear inspiration from James Rolfe and the like, and he was actually able to pull it off in his own style instead of coming off as a clone. He made, as far as I know, the first full in-depth review and analysis of Action 52 before any other YouTuber did, 2 years before James reviewed the games himself.
Taking us to an overall total of 109.
At some point, he was eventually going to do a video on the Genesis version of Action 52, but that never materialized. In fact, he just dropped off the face of the earth one day and hasn't uploaded a new video in 16 years. Hope the guy's doing alright in life. Terribly sorry for the tangent. We're talking about a completely different guy named MikeSpike. Well, really, I actually don't want to talk about this guy because Jesus Christ! You want to talk about shameless. This guy isn't even trying to hide who he's taking influence from.
What's up? It's Mike, and guess who just got out of Gaming Opinion jail? This guy.
He's got the skits and the tone of voice, even the style of editing. His channel has less than 1,000 subs, so this is kind of what I meant when I said I didn't want to come across as punching down. But dear God, he even has the thumbnails and the blue border. I feel like this guy is actually going for the mockbuster vibe. He has thumbnails and videos that are eerily similar to Scott's own. I feel as if he wants to sort of get people to think it was a Scott the Woz video and click on it by accident. But also looking at his channel, he seems to have started when he was just a teen. So he's probably just another one of those kids who looked up to Scott and really wanted to do content just like him, which is admirable. But damn, son, this is a little too close, don't you think? There is nothing wrong with taking inspiration from somebody, but there comes a point when your stuff is so close to your inspiration, what do you really have to offer that they don't?
Trust me, it's scarily bad. It's horrifyingly bad. It's all the other synonyms for the word scarily. What, do I look like a thesaurus to you?
Content creation is a competitive market. Who's going to take your time over the others? And there is a good chance this guy will watch this video, and I only have this to say to you. Don't quit your dreams, but your content should be more like your own and less like someone else's. I never said I wasn't a raging hypocrite.
Эй, Ира. Не обращайте внимания, просто я, как гордый обладатель полки для видеоигр, расставляю свою коллекцию ретро-видеоигр.
I don't speak French.
Hey all, Beta64 here.
This next guy is a very interesting case, as this is probably a channel some of you might have heard of. It's a channel known as Beta64, and I know some of you might be fans of his and are probably saying, hey, wait a minute, Beta64 isn't a Scott the Wasp clone, what the hell is he doing here? And you'd be right for the most part. He isn't a Scott the Wasp clone, with one major exception. Beta64's usual content is, well, related to what's in his name. A lot of his content is focused around looking at the beta versions of the games and comparing them to the final release, looking at how much was changed or how much was cut or altered for the final release. It's a really interesting video series. I pop one on every once in a while, and they keep your interest really well. He's been making videos since 2012, which is 13 years ago now. God. Now, I'm not calling him a clone here, just because he looks like another doppelganger of Scott. In 2019, I guess he got burnt out for doing the same content over and over, or his channel was stagnating, so he wanted to try something different. He made a video on Smash Ultimate, and started talking about the game, the history behind it, and everything. But sprinkled throughout the video are very Scott the Wasp-esque skits that have next to no connection to the actual commentary.
Maybe you should go ahead and start the video.
Can I do that? This is Beta64, thanks for watching.
What? Wait. What's this all with the music note mean?
Cheese nips.
It really comes off as very forced and just doing it because that's what was hot at the time.
Right? Desne?
When he released this video, his audience wasn't too happy about it. A good chunk of the comments in the video is people complaining about the skits and how pointless they are. It's not a bad video by any means, but this isn't the type of humor you'd see from this guy.
I'm a has-been. I don't have 1 million subs. I don't have 2 million. I don't know even what to do for an intro. God, it's so good.
Beta64 took into consideration all the criticism, and out of this video, never really did anything like this again. He even went and said the video was experimental, and his newer videos are much better. So yeah, this was just a one-off video trying to be like Scott, nothing else. I'm glad he was able to learn and grow from this. He's still a clone of the face department though.
Hey all, Nicus Studio here.
Hi everyone, it's me, Mike, as Mike's Extras, and this is a video that I've actually
What?
for a while because a couple weeks ago.
What?
Just for the past couple of months, there have been a bunch of.
Are you filming this instead of a tornado? Do I need to call emergency services? What are your thoughts and opinions on Super Mario 3D World?
Hey all, GingerVHS here.
Just copying someone you look up to's bit isn't really interesting to talk about on its own, but I have to give special mention to the smaller creator called GingerVHS. He has less than 1,000 subs, and going through his channel, seeing it start out as a teenager talking to a blurry camera with poor lighting, filming the TV screen with the camera, oh, this takes me back to the Red Spray days.
Why are the gods making scan lines appear in front of Link's vision?
And then he would start taking cues from, well, you should know at this point.
Ever since I came into being, I've loved the act of jumping. It's practically my middle name.
Now, the reason I'm highlighting this small channel in particular is because, compared to the rest of the channels of the creators I've shown in this video, when taking cues from Scott's content for his own, this kid took impeccable notes. This is not a clone of Scott the Wasp. This is Scott the Wasp.
Have you ever walked into a room and forgot what you were going to say? Me too. No, this is doing a really good job so far. I really feel like I'm having a subpar experience.
3DO's conference was pitiful. They mainly talked about their upcoming console, the M2, which got cancelled in 1997. So did the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, so don't feel too bad.
Welcome to 1879, where scandium, light bulbs, and gonorrhea are all the rage. I would say that this is the greatest game of all time. If I ever have a kid, I'm gonna name Red Alarm Jr. because by golly gee, this game had such an incredible impact on the trajectory of my life.
From the skits, the inflection in his voice, the style of humor, down to the thumbnails and the type of content he talks about. He got everything down to a T. But instead of everything being blue, the borders and stuff are now red, because he's a ginger. He got the closest to Scott's content compared to everyone else in this video, even the guy who wasn't even trying to hide it. I know I said that you should put your own spin on something you're taking cues from, because if you're sticking so close to your source, what do you have to offer? But this crosses over into a brand new category. This kid is sticking so close to the script, it's borderline uncanny. I feel like I'm watching a Twilight Zone episode where Scott the Woz was a teenage ginger. Honestly, the two of them should cross over, and this can be the evil ginger version of Scott he has to fight. But GingerVHS's videos being comparable to Scott's content, that is up to you. Obviously, it's made by just a kid with a fraction of a budget, so don't expect it to be on the same level budget and quality-wise. The guy showing pride in him being a ginger, I wonder if he and the kid who made that viral video all those years ago would have been friends.
It pisses me off! Ginger people do have souls, alright?
Man, this guy really deserves his own video at some point, speaking of which, doesn't he? But yeah, that's all I really gotta say on this kid. He doesn't really have anything on his own. I don't really know the best way to put it, but compared to someone like MikeSpike, who were trying way too hard to be like Scott, this kid really did his homework in copying Scott.
The fact that this only has RF makes it completely useless in the modern day, so it's a good thing I'm stuck in the past.
I don't really think anyone else can really top this kid when it comes to doing Scott the Woz's bit, except, Scott himself. I got a ton, and I mean a ton of suggestions for this video, thanks to my gracious fans, giving me stuff to work with for content so I can profit. And honestly, if I wanted to, this video could have been well over an hour. There were a ton I could have at least brought up, but it'd just be more of the same really without much substance. This is the biggest problem I run into when making these clone videos. When someone gets famous, there are so many clones out there that do the exact same thing, and some are interesting in their own way, but most of them stick so close to the original source material, well, there isn't much to really say on them. There's only so much I can say about every guy talking into a camera, especially when the videos are decent in their own right. This guy named Mr. Jephthah has a cheese hat on, which makes me wish there were more really stupid costumes during my search for these guys. I miss you, Lotsa! This one called Voix to Go I've seen described as Scott the Woz, but with NASCAR. Man, we'll just make a review show based on anything, won't we? The Power Bower, it's Scott the Woz, but he can kick my ass. This guy named Division Low is definitely taking cues from Scott. He's even doing the exact same border thing that Scott does, but it's purple. I wonder if this border has some lore behind it too? Also, guys, I think you misunderstood the assignment. When I meant sent me clones of Scott the Woz, I didn't mean literal clones of him. He could be Scott's stunt double for all his skits. This guy could rob a bank and frame Scott for it. And let me reiterate here. A lot of these creators are obviously young and just try to get their foot out the door. This isn't like back in the day where everyone was just copying James Rolfe and his shtick just because it was what was popular at the time. And they wanted to be popular too. Some of these guys are just kids. Honestly, if someone just wants to be popular online, I doubt they're going to copy Scott the Woz of all creators just to get a taste of that success. Everyone has to start somewhere, and eventually with enough time and effort, they'll probably carve out their own niche. So yeah, I think we're about done here. Well, actually, I think I might have one more that's worthy of discussion.
Hey all, Demeech here.
Since my channel took off back in 2022, even back then, I heard about this content creator in my comments named Demeech. I had no idea who he was, or what made him so special to want to talk about. I checked out his channel, saw maybe 2 videos, and I just didn't get it. Why is this guy so noteworthy enough to talk about? I've been seeing his name come up time and time again when people want me to make videos on others. I was thinking it was one of those cases where people just wanted me to do an epic roast of somebody they don't like. I'm not a weapon, guys. Now, when asking you all for suggestions for this video, his name has come up yet again. So, you know what? Screw it. I'm finally gonna bite the bullet and talk about this guy, so he'll stop being brought up.
You are now watching Demeech.
As for being a Scott the Woz clone, you can tell there's a bit of influence, but it's not nearly as obvious as the others in the video. So technically I'm cheating with this one, but what the hell else am I going to be able to talk about this guy? I like his little animations and avatar he uses, but going through his videos, some cracks start to form. The first thing I noticed when going further into his stuff, rage bait. Lots and lots of rage bait. A bunch of his videos are focused around the stuff he doesn't like. A shameless, unfinished disaster. How it killed the series, Nintendo should be ashamed. Oh boy, I can tell exactly why this guy was heavily requested and what I'm getting into. Yes, it seems the majority of Demeech's content is being heavily critical of Nintendo's current year products, and seeing how rabid Nintendo fans can get, this ain't gonna be pretty. He's extremely critical of Nintendo's current games and practices, but the thing about it is, sometimes his critiques can range from actually valid to downright petty and personal.
But that doesn't mean replacing Miis wasn't an awful decision. Yes, you can play as your Mii, but they look super awkward. They're literally just a Mii's head on a Sportsmate's body. The Sportsmates are still an absolute far cry from the Miis. It's not a matter of getting used to them, or getting with the times. They're nowhere near as appealing, and are still way more limited in terms of customization.
And because a lot of the time he uses these rage bait thumbnails to get clicks, and his own criticisms end up being personal or petty, this causes, what else? Backlash. The thing about Demeech is, compared to everyone else in this video, Demeech is the most combative towards his detractors. Constantly throughout his videos, he will pepper in jabs towards the fans of the content he's bashing, which just adds fuel to the fire.
If you ignore the game's problems, then it's amazing. Maybe if I don't play it, it's amazing.
So what ends up happening with Demeech's videos and his interactions with people, he makes a video criticizing one of Nintendo's games, makes it super clickbaity, he then proceeds to get a lot of flack for it, he then pushes back and makes videos going off on the fans even harder, making them push back against him, and it continues feeding into a never-ending cycle. I also neglected to mention, whenever he's going off on fans, or a certain game he really doesn't like, this leads to some of the most unhinged editing I've ever seen. Just take a look at some of this. Oh my god, he even has a straw man he uses to tear down his own videos!
You just admitted that you had fun with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Glad you saw the light and realized how incredible they are.
Have you literally heard anything else that I've said?
Pokemon is just such a phenomenal game that, in my heart of hearts, it's such a perfect 10 out of 10. And with your entitled bantering, you're not letting us Pokemon fans be happy and ruining our enjoyment!
Okay, you know what? I think I actually enjoy this. This is the type of shit you would definitely see all the time back in the day.
I've watched every single one of your videos 37 times and have a shitload of mistakes that you should be hanged for! Hanged for!
It's gotten to the point at times where he's deleted videos for all the flack he was getting for them. He had a whole video on why easy mode ruins games. And that's been a consistent topic that's been argued in the gaming scene for years now, especially when it comes to FromSoft games. He got so much crap for this, I think he removed the video. I couldn't find it on his channel, and I had to use third-party sources. So basically, he's Scott the Woz, if Scott hated Nintendo fanboys and made his videos out of spite. What is my final conclusion on this? Well, I really gotta say, something like this is nothing new to me. I think the whole concept of just ignoring somebody has been completely lost.
Stop ignoring me, ignoring you!
Demeech is fueled purely on arguments and being combative, and as long as people keep giving him that, he'll never slow down. And again, you can go way far back on his channel and see where it started 13-something years ago, showing off his cute pets and various arts and crafts.
Hi, it's I Love Nintendo 1999
and seeing it become a masterfully crafted bait channel is something to behold. But really, I've seen this entire shtick of baiting an entire group of people done plenty of times in the past. It's nice to see the art hasn't changed in the slightest.
There's a difference between being a fan and being a fanboy who scales the models in Pal World to try to make a fake statement.
So was Demeech worth talking about? Yeah, I'd say so. Can I recommend his channel in good faith? That's up to you. I still think the entire situation is funny. But come on, guys, you don't need me to validate your hatred for a guy, especially when he obviously feeds off of it. I think we've forgotten one of the golden rules of the internet. Well, we're at the end of the vid. Do you feel educated? Do you feel like you've learned something new? Nah. It doesn't matter what year it is or what decade it is, someone will love your work so much that they'll want to do the exact same thing. And I think the majority of these guys are just copying someone they enjoy and wanted to make it work in their own way. So you got a man who is already a bunch of older viewers mashed together, and people are taking cues from him. And in the future, someone who is inspired by Scott will become hugely successful, and then some people would clone him, and thus the cycle continues. 'Tis the way of passing on tradition. Everyone is inspired by something. God bless, like and subscribe, and good night. And remember, my friends, there is nothing wrong with inspiration. You should use it and turn it into something of your own.
It looks pretty terrible. The leaks that we've seen so far, and just, obviously Rockstar's been going downhill for a while. Last time there